Okay. No, it's in November.
Yeah.
It just sounded very
It's a
motivated after
beautiful.
that.
It's a lot of people's favorite, by the way.
It's flat. It's pretty flat, I've
It's
heard.
pretty flat. It's beautiful. It's cool. It's Philly.
Philly's a great city. It's a
Great city.
It is.
Your voice went really high pitched as you said that.
I mean, I need to do a better job of selling my city. I don't do a good job of it, but there are lots of great cultural artifacts in Philadelphia. You know, National Treasure. I'm sure Nick Cage was in Boston and Philadelphia at some point.
Ben Franklin, cheesesteaks, the Eagles.
Yeah, that's it. All right, we're done. We're done talking about Philadelphia.
This is Topline.
Thank you for tuning in. This episode was brought to you by the Revenue Optimist community and Traction Complete. You can learn more, watch the latest episode, and find the Revenue Optimist under resources on Traction Complete's homepage at tractioncomplete.com. Sam's in PST, that's why.
I'm on PST. Yo, in PST.
How's San Francisco?
It's good. I'm in my hotel room. I'm gonna go downstairs right after this and speak at Charge Be Believe. And guess what I'm going to be talking about? Profitable, efficient growth and the future of America.
Yeah, San Francisco is a great place.
It is a great place, and I'll be talking about. I feel like I froze. It's okay. AJ, how are you?
I'm good. It's 89 degrees in Austin today. And,
oh my God.
I went for a run because I'm announcing to the world that I'm going to train for a marathon, but it's not. So I need to get all the tips from you, Sam, on this front.
Sam, you've done a marathon?
Yeah, I've run 6 marathons.
Oh, 6 marathons.
Yeah, his favorite is to run marathons downhill, just one way. He loves running downhill marathons. It's really good for
No, I actually don't. I run Philly. You know, I might run Philly with you if you want.
Sure, but I'm not. Well, this is turning into a big deal. I don't want to turn this into a big deal at all. I'm backpedaling already. I'm
you gotta commit, AJ. You gotta commit.
No, you don't start training until 3 to 4 months before, right? Is that correct?
No, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
my friends are training for London right now, and they also don't drink. They look so good.
Yeah, I love that. So
they're so leaned out. And they're doing speed work, and tempo run. They're doing the whole bit. They know how to do it at this point. I think they've between them run like 40 or 50.
Do you have a goal? Are you done at 6? Or are you going to do more?
I'm going to do more, but it's just you got to take a break. I got to take a break because I tend to hit the wall, and I'm not great on nutrition. I need Matt Marino, Seattle chapter head, to help me there. But so the Tucson Marathon, the last one I did, I hit the wall again at 20 miles, really 18. They didn't have a fuel station. They said they were going to have a fuel station, meaning like an energy bar or power gel, and they didn't have anything. All they had was water and Gatorade, which is not enough. So I didn't have my 4th gel. That's not the reason why. The other reason why is I came out too fast and it was downhill. But anyway, the point is like the last 6 miles of Philly, last 6 miles of Little Rock. They've been, you just get in the headspace where you're like, I don't want to move. And the fact that there's 6 more miles to go and I don't want to move, and I could sit down right here on the side of the road on the highway and never move again. And I have to find a way to get 6 miles between here and now, it's a horrible, horrible feeling. So I needed a break after that, but I think I could be in the right headspace to do Philly with you.
Okay. No, it's in November.
It just sounded very motivated.
It's a lot of people's favorite, by the way.
It's flat. It's pretty flat.
It's pretty flat. It's beautiful. It's cool. It's Philly.
Philly's a great city. It's a great city. It is.
Your voice went really high pitched as you said that.
I mean, I need to do a better job of selling my city. I don't do a good job of it, but there are lots of great cultural artifacts in Philadelphia. National Treasure. I'm sure Nick Cage was in Boston and Philadelphia at some point.
Ben Franklin, cheesesteaks, the Eagles.
Yeah, that's it. All right, we're done. We're done talking about Philadelphia. This is the most we should
Austin,
ever be talking
how are
about
you,
Philadelphia in
Austin?
a top line episode.
I'm good. I'm good. I was actually thinking about your new member hub. How is that going?
It's going amazing. 25% of all members have now created a profile, which is really pretty amazing.
Wow.
We rolled it out to associates last week. There's over 500 associates have enrolled. We're rolling out mentoring through it. This month, we're rolling out a vendor
Wow.
marketplace. So if people want to get sales commission software, they can find QuotaPath in the vendor marketplace.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we're rolling out a job board. So it's where all of the newsletters are being distributed for different chapters. Yeah, it's awesome. We're gonna
I
have
heard your demo day was really good. I spoke to a couple of people that attended it, and they found it really an efficient way to see what's out there versus having to go through that process with every company.
It was really awesome. And then on the vendor side, because I was with the president and kind of co-founder of Multiplied GTM and Montana, and he was like, it was amazing. There's this thing of like, we can't sell, nobody wants to see the product, and that's not really true. People do want to see the technology, they want to see how it works, they just don't want to be inundated with a million SDR messages to get to the point where they can actually look at the product. And so it's this really incredible opportunity to actually in a concentrated way review emerging tech.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, all of them are high intent. If you're going to be looking at sales commission software, that's pretty high intent for the vendor. And so if there's a tactful way to follow up, it also creates really good high quality pipeline for the people that are participating in the demo day. So we're going to keep doing them, and we're going to do functional demo days. So we're going to do like a marketing tech demo day and a sales tech demo day and a RevOps demo day and an AI demo day, and just do them by category. And I think it's going to be valuable for all parties.
How does a company apply to it?
They send me an email, or they send Aaron an email, and we'll create an opening for it. And of course, we'd like to showcase QuotaPath, but there's a lot of good stuff happening with Exactly and with Script.
There it is. There we go. I was about to send the email to Aaron right now, and then I'm just like, you know what?
Listen, I mean,
on.
I want to help you. I do want to help you, but it is a business. It's not hard.
Austin, how are you doing?
I'm good. We have really nice weather in Toronto. It's 17 degrees Celsius. I have no idea what that means in your world, but
about 65.
65. So people are happy. People are jolly. No one's
Beautiful.
constipated.
You're seeing the sun for the first time this year.
Amazing, man. It's amazing. Let's jump in. We've got a full docket today. We're going to talk about Klarna's AI assistant doing the work of 700 employees and its implications on all of us. We're going to do a deep dive into the Pavilion and Ebsta Benchmark Report, but we're going to start with this co-CEO situation in tech. So there's been a rise in the number of co-CEOs we're seeing in tech companies, especially at the growth stage. So Totango is going to be run by a co-CEO setup, which Edward shared with us last week. The same day, Sendoso, I think it was the same day, Sendoso announced a co-CEO joining Chris. And today we heard that Mediafly's co-CEO is moving on. So
and that's Mary Shea.
And so the proponents of this model say it's helpful to share the responsibility between two folks. It's a big role. It's a lot of responsibility. Share it. It creates stability if you want to bring in a new leader, and continuity in the case that somebody gets hit by a truck or takes another job. Successful examples, probably the most successful example has to be Atlassian, because they were run by co-CEOs from inception. But you do have examples in publicly.
Wait a second. BlackBerry was a pretty big example of this, right? BlackBerry was.
I don't know if it's the most successful based on how they're trending right now in the public markets.
But I mean, this is a use case. They were like the ones that like spearheaded this whole co-CEO thing, I thought.
Yeah, I think they turned the community off from the idea. But there have been other examples like Netflix, SAP, Salesforce. They've all had co-CEO setups. Salesforce and SAP don't have them anymore. VCs have frowned upon this because of power struggles, mixed messaging, the dilution of accountability, and also the costliness related to having two CEOs. So I guess the question is, AJ, why do you think we're seeing so many co-CEOs and growth stage tech companies right now? Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What's happening?
I do not think it's a good thing at all. I think it's not just a dilution on accountability. It's a challenge on like confusion within the organization. I've known a few companies that have gone co-CEOs. There's actually, I'll say Brian Stevenson in Philadelphia was a co-CEO of Reprise. He left, and we had a lot of conversations just around the division of labor. I asked him like, how does this really work? And he's like, you just have to continue to communicate. We've been at talks where we've heard co-CEOs talk about how they work, and I think it just feels like marketing window dressing, and it breaks down after time. And I think ultimately there's probably a situation, there's probably co-CEOs where you're looking at it. I don't know if this last scene is like this, but there's someone in the organization that you know is the true CEO. And I think if people are thinking in the back of their mind and it's not being like actually said out loud, it causes more challenges than anything. And look, I have experience with this at Trendkite. My co-founder and I were 50-50. And when we raised our Series A, we didn't have titles at that time. And
Oh,
we actually had this kind of like all out fight on the CEO. It was a classic first time founder situation where we both wanted to be the CEO. And I think I've told this story where I had to took a step back from the company because I started the company to be the CEO, to be the guy running it. So when we started QuotaPath, like the first thing I said to Cole is like, hey, listen, I want to start a company with you 100%. I think you're the right partner. You're the right co-founder, but here's how I think the division of labor needs to work. I'm a second time founder, want to be the CEO. Here's why, here's the reasons for it. And you're always going to be a co-founder. So I'm never going to take that away from anyone I ever work with from a co-founder standpoint. But like, I want, this is for me and this is my ego talking about it. But I know in the future, I might not be a CEO. So I don't think it works. But I am intrigued because you're right. We are going to see a lot more of this. And what you will see and find is that it will be announced as co-CEOs. And then 6 months later, I bet you'll see just like, it won't even be announced. You'll just see either a switch or one of the co-CEOs leave the business. It won't be made a big to do because honestly, I don't want to say embarrassing. That's probably too strong of a word to say. It's just not something that companies want to talk about. It feels like a failure. And honestly, for that person is probably like, think about if you're in that position where you're like having this infighting, there's political challenges with the board or team or whatever. And then you know what? I'm out. I'm done. That's my take.
interesting. Well, venture capitalists also don't like two co-founders to have the same amount of equity. So they really do like there to be a
Is that
clear,
true? I didn't know
Yeah, I
that.
didn't know that's
yeah,
true. Is that true?
yeah,
Where did
yeah,
you get
yeah, yeah.
that? Where did you
This is
get that?
there. Jason Lemkin has also done some really interesting articles on the equity that the different co-founders have at the end of the day once a company goes public. You can see there's a significant difference. I've spoken to many investors who say that we don't want co-founders to have equal equity. There
Hmm.
has to be a clear delineation between who is running this business, and the co-founder, who's the CEO, should have the most equity. And so investors don't like this. Sam, what's your take on this? What's going on?
I agree with AJ. I've been listening to our last few episodes because I am a narcissist. And so I really love the sound of my voice. And it's just so beautiful. And then I look good too. You know, I'm really
You're
handsome.
doing it. I like it.
So,
Um,
so not only is he
um,
listening, he listens to it on Apple Podcast and then re-listens to it
I
on
watch it on
YouTube so he
YouTube
can watch
to
himself.
get the views, and I'm just like, God, that guy's friggin' sexy, like sexual, you know, like just exudes sexuality, like virility. I'm just kidding. What is that? How does this have to do with co-CEOs?
I have
Not a
no idea,
damn
but I
thing.
liked it.
But no, my I was
I
going
think
to
you
me and
actually
AJ.
did prove the point, by the way, on why you can't have co-CEOs.
It's just me and AJ have been agreeing a lot, and I guess we should find things to disagree on, but this isn't one of them. I think I don't. I think it's not a good thing. I don't think it works. I think it is really a way. I think there's a perception that the founder has a special magic to the business, and there is a fear. And also, most of the time, the first CEO has a lot of control. And I think that the consequence of that is that sometimes the board or investors or people writ large, stakeholders, decide that to get to the next level, somebody else needs to be brought in. And the founding CEO doesn't want to relinquish the reins or doesn't want to acknowledge that they couldn't make it all the way. And this is an opportunity perhaps to try and bring in a different set of hands, a different set of eyes, a different set of expertise, and hopefully try to have your cake and eat it too. You get the benefit of a more seasoned operator or a different perspective, but you don't actually have to step back from the organization or relinquish meaningful responsibility. And I think
Why not
my
just hire a COO or president? Like, why are they doing this
I don't
specific?
think any of it works if you want the honest truth.
Oh, interesting. Say
I
more.
I think it's not that it doesn't work. Of course it works sometimes. I think that, but here, let me give you an example from my life. And it's thank God it's so many years past that it's really not anything too salacious. But I joined Livestream, and Jesse Hertzberg was Livestream. This is inside baseball. You want some inside baseball
I
listening to
love this.
Topline? Here you go. Livestream was looking for a COO. And this was over, almost 10 years ago. So hopefully this is like old enough news that it's not too damaging to anybody.
Statue of
But
limitations as well.
exactly. It's not yesterday. Livestream was looking for a COO. I interviewed for that role. I got the job offer, reporting to Max Hout, the co-founder. There's 5 co-founders at Livestream, and the CEO. And I turned it down because I wanted to stay at Axial and see it through to some kind of outcome. And of course, I later got fired from Axial, so that was not a great outcome. But and somebody else interviewed for that role, and that person had been a COO for a while and was frustrated at being a COO. Right? Everybody's frustrated. If you've ever been on a movie set, you know the director wants to act, the actor wants to direct. Nobody's happy doing the job that they have, right? So
Yeah.
and so Jesse interviewed for COO role, and he said, "I don't want to be COO. I want to be CEO." And they said, "Okay, fine." And they went through a negotiating process, and all of the co-founders became SVPs, and Jesse became the CEO. And it was a kumbaya at the beginning. It's always kumbaya at the beginning. But then when it's not kumbaya, and when two people have a strong but differing opinion on the decision that should be made, the cap table is the ledger. You know, the cap table is the blockchain,
Yeah.
and the cap table is what says who's actually in charge. And so turned out that Max was actually still in charge. And when the CEO that they'd hired to be the outside CEO, and remember that they had originally interviewed for COO, and this person negotiated
Yeah.
to be CEO, when that person had a bunch of opinions and perspectives, it turned out that sure, they were CEO, but really the board was still aligned with somebody that was nominally an SVP. Along with me, I was an SVP too. And ultimately, it didn't work out. And they parted ways with the CEO, and then they promoted a different co-founder to be CEO for the time being. That person, Mark Kornfeld, ended up selling the company to Vimeo, and actually became president and chief product officer of Vimeo. And now he's left after an incredible run, incredible technologist, incredible leader and operator. Jesse is also an incredible leader and operator, and I don't think this example illustrates anything bad about anybody necessarily, except about the way that power dynamics and structures work.
Mm.
And I just think, and I think it's probably, I hate to say this and be so genderized, but I just think it's particularly hard for men. I think men are pretty needy and insecure, and they
Mm.
need the spotlight and they need the microphone, just like the 3 of us. And I think so all of that is to say that you can hire an outside COO, and the COO is supposed to be the babysitter for the founder or CEO. And maybe that works, but there has to be such radical fundamental alignment. You need a leader like AJ if you're going to bring in an outside COO, because AJ cares more about being successful for QuotaPath than he cares about his own ego. And if you told AJ that QuotaPath could be acquired by XYZ company for $1 billion, but he would have to be the VP of marketing and not the CEO, he would say yes in a heartbeat. There's a lot of people that don't actually believe that. And there's a lot of people that the story in tech is, do you want to be rich or do you want to be king?
Yeah.
And the point is, Do you want to be in full control and have, and tell everybody what to do, but limit the size of your scale and your opportunity, or do you just want to win and you're willing to play whatever role on the team helps the team win? So all of that is a very long-winded way of saying that I think co-CEO is like the worst outcome of all of these different outcomes. I think hiring an outside COO can be better, but again, it really depends on the CEO and whether they think that they're ready to share and whether there's clear delineation and whether there's not so much ego. And that's why the kind of COO you need is not, and this is why I've come back to other examples of executives who define themselves as contrarian and how that's the wrong framing. You don't need contrarian. What you need is somebody that respects the leader, but wants to pursue the truth and help the leader get to the truth.
Yeah.
And that is a very rare person that doesn't care so much about their ego, but cares about the right outcome. As it relates to co-CEOs, I just think it's just a stopgap to preserve the ego probably of the original founder, or preserve the ego of one of the people that wants to continue to say that they're still CEO, but actually needs to have their decision-making responsibility curtailed in some way because maybe they've been shown to not be the best at decision-making. All of it is to say that all of this is rare. It's very rare to have a great leader that can scale all the way, which is why what Mark Zuckerberg has done is even more impressive. Why, no matter what you think of Larry Page and Sergey, how far Larry specifically got Google is absolutely amazing. Whatever you think of Stuart Butterfield and Slack, what he did was absolutely amazing, because going from small to super big is just super hard.
Yeah. First off, Sam, thank you so much for the very kind words. I blushed a little bit during that.
Well, I mean them.
But I also
Was I wrong? Was I wrong?
Well, no, because I'm not giving up my day job as VP of marketing. So you're absolutely right.
The job he really likes.
I love it if you're going to interview for a VP of marketing. You're like, listen, I'm still CEO, but you get to be co-VP of marketing.
I'll take that. I would love that. I have
some good marketing ideas.
The VP of marketing. I love it. Here's where I don't disagree, but like give a caveat. I think you gave a really specific example with live stream. If I've seen presidents or CEOs come in for very specific projects, so take Zoom Info when they emerged with DiscoverOrg, Katie Boulard came in as president to help with that merger, to help Henry with that merger. And so that was a very specific example of where she had a very specific skill set. She's merging two organizations. She has the go-to-market experience. She has product and engineering leadership experience. That works. The other is when, to your point, when the board or the CEO has decided, hey, it's time to bring someone in potentially, and the CEO's okay with it, they bring on a COO to then transition out. And I think those two cases are very specific, but everyone's aligned. I think what I'm hearing, Sam, is everyone has to be aligned with that end mission to make the company as successful as possible to the outcome for stakeholders. And it's, truth be told, when there's money on the table, the egos of CEOs can be very, very challenging. And, they can get it from 0 to 25 million, and then it stalls 25, it goes down to 20. I talked to a CRO today, CRO of a company in Austin. They went from 20 to 15. The CEO just got fired. So that's going to happen. I would love to hear if there's anyone in the audience who's like, no, you all are wrong. Like, co-CEOs work. Here's a company that's worked. Write into us. Send me a note. Send Sam a note. We'd love to talk to those co-CEOs. We'll have them on the show.
Well, I think it works. It's different based on the size of the business, right? So if you look at SAP, when they had a co-CEO set up, they had a very successful run. Even Salesforce, when they had
companies, right? Didn't they split it up?
That's the thing. Like, those businesses are so big that you can actually have two co-CEOs, and you can kind of make sense of it. But it's funny, none of those companies like SAP and Salesforce didn't go back to the co-CEO model. So that's an interesting insight. I think a lot of this, how for a while, when the board would push a founder CEO out, you would read a post where they would say, I'm moving up into the executive chair role, right? Like, they would move into the board chair or whatever, the chairman of the board. I think because that's happened so much last year, and it's so clear that this CEO got pushed out, and this is not moving up, but this has been a push out type of situation where that move isn't as elegant as it was before. the messaging doesn't land. And so maybe this is a situation where a founder's like, okay, I get it, but I'll stay on. Let's bring somebody in. I'll help transition it, and then I'll move out a few months down the line. So it doesn't feel that at the end of a market downturn, I was pushed out because I was not performing well or something of that. So I think a lot of this is optics, and a lot of these companies in a year from now will have one CEO, and the co-founder CEO will become the chairman of the board like they used to be. So I think there's that in there. That's probably what's playing out in a lot of these instances.
We should make the point for the listeners that it's funny. I don't know if it's funny. I hope everybody's okay. But Marion Carson from Mediafly gave a presentation at the CEO Summit on how to be successful co-CEOs, which was about a month and a half ago. And now one of the people that gave that presentation is no longer a co-CEO. So, but
it
I
is funny.
think
It is.
It's I mean, we can move to the next topic after this, but this is a funny story. So I'd been like ups and downs in my career. And so the last full-time place I worked, I was like very, very cautious, right? So I did all this due diligence on the company before they hired me. I talked to the founders, friends. I talked to early investors, former coworkers. I met almost every employee in the company. I felt like I'd never done more due diligence. I even said, before I go to work at this company, I'm going to do a consulting gig for 3 months to try before you buy. So I'm not even going to announce it on LinkedIn. I'm going to just like work for this company for 3 months. This was in 2018. And I'm not going to announce it until like after the 3-month trial period so that I can be doubly sure. And I did all this analysis, this quantitative analysis. And then I started like February 1st. And so on May 1st, I published this article on LinkedIn, which was called, How to Choose Your Next Company, or Why I Chose Behavevox. And I was gone from Behavevox within 6 months. So that's funny. So anytime you want to tell people,
that is also funny. It is.
Anytime you want to tell people, this is how you're supposed to do it. Just, you want to see God laugh, make a plan.
What can we click into that? So what was the thing that you were unable to uncover that looking back, because you did do like a lot of due diligence, and there's this information asymmetry, and you tried to minimize that information asymmetry as much as humanly possible. You obviously uncovered things that were interesting and helped you lean into this. What did you not uncover that you later found out? Can you talk about that?
Sure. People want to believe certain things, but that doesn't mean that they do believe those things. And this is true for co-CEOs. This is true for the CEO hiring a COO. This is true for the CEO saying, I'm going to be an SVP and bring in an outsider CEO. They want to believe. Everybody wants to believe that they want to be rich and not king. They want to pursue what's best for the company. They are willing to cede their ego and their control and share the decision-making responsibility and share the credit. And people like me maybe think that we are easy to get along with and easy, and that my point is this: I came in because the founder said, hey, I want a C-level person. I said, I don't think you need a C-level person. You need like a head of sales. I don't think you need a C-level person. He said, no. I want a C-level person. I want the best. What happens when you hire Sam Jacobs to be a C-level person in your company, right? Just like any C-level person. If you don't want my perspective or my opinions, then don't hire a C-level person, right? I'm coming in. I am not an admin, and I'm not a head of RevOps. I'm any one of us, if we're going to be hired, you're hiring us for our perspective.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was that first, the pipeline wasn't quite as qualified as I thought. So the business thought that it was going to go from 2 million in ARR to 10 million in like 6 months by closing a few large enterprise deals. And it didn't win any of those deals. And all of the deals took like 6 to 12 months longer than it thought. And the business was also pretty immature, and I was immature at large enterprise sales at the time. So we won a few POCs. We won a few proofs of concept, and you think, You think naturally, like, why would a large organization spend all this time on a proof of concept if it wasn't ready to move into actual commercial production? And turns out many large organizations are happy to do POCs and not have anything happen after that unless you structure a really tight sales process, which is why enterprise sales is so hard. So the pipeline kind of evaporated at the same time that the founder realized, you know what? I don't I don't I don't want Sam's opinions. He's annoying me. And he's annoying other people, and he's contradicting the thing that I said, and I'm giving guidance on Tuesday, and Sam's kind of undermining it and giving different guidance on Wednesday because we're not really on the same page and we don't really agree about how to do things. And that's not, he didn't think that that was the case when he hired me. He thought, I'm ready to hand the reins over. I'm ready to share the credit and the decision making. And then they realize that they're not. That's why these things
Interesting.
happen.
Did you go back and update your post?
I didn't. I just let it. I said, I'm giving this to the world. It's going to evaporate. Nobody really cares. Nobody read it. It's fine.
Nobody read it.
This was before Sam was famous on LinkedIn. AJ,
There's-
is there a
yeah.
way to like test for that when you're interviewing with a company? Like, if there's a CRO friend of yours who's like, "Hey, I'm interviewing with the Series A company, and I want to make sure that this person can gel with an executive." Like, how do you test for that in an interview process? Because everybody is just selling. The company is selling themselves. The candidate is selling themselves. But what you need to figure out is, when things get difficult, can we collaborate? Do we trust that each other will make decisions using logic, that we'll hear each other's point of view, that we're disagreeable by nature, but we're mission oriented, which trumps the disagreeableness? How do you test this stuff?
I mean, I think I'm going to be vulnerable a little bit and say I haven't figured this out myself for exec hiring. I think it's very, very difficult. I think I've known, like, I've tended to err towards my network for references and really, really
So
dig in.
important.
Yeah, so important, and do
So
like the
important.
back channeling. But even when I've done like 13 references, and it's not that it comes back squeaky clean, but you think you have these known things, your business is just so different than where the person was. Like this, say the example Sam came into, like, he knew a lot of things about the world, but the things that he talked about where he disagreed with his CEO, I guarantee that was the first time he's done it. He said it himself. I wasn't mature in enterprise sales. I had never gone through this before. So as much as you want those things to like be together, just sometimes they're not. And look, at the end of the day, being an exec at a startup is the hardest job you could possibly have. Like, how many times have we talked about the shelf life of a CMO being 6 to 8 months, or a CRO or whomever, and companies going through rapid iterations and then bouncing back? Like, I'll even say that I've hired phenomenal executives, but I think the company failed to get to where that
Mm,
stage needed to be for that exec to really shine in their superpowers. And I was optimistic, not in the company necessarily, but in the future of where we would be in a year and a half. And like, honestly, if you're a startup exec, you get a little bit stir crazy if you're not seeing the results of what you're expecting. And then you get to the potential finger pointing, oh, this exec isn't doing their job. And then the first team breaks down, and then the trust breaks down, and then the healthy conflict breaks down, and the decision making breaks down. And those are challenges that you have to deal with. And how could you possibly test those in a contrived interview
yeah,
process? You can
it's really
have
hard.
them in your, like, even having people in your business for 6 months consulting, and then coming in the first like 7, 8 months is great, but something happens where you go through another transformation, and it's like, well, this isn't what I signed up for. And it's okay. I think that that's okay. Now, I will
Because I
say,
guess a big variable in all of this is like the environment and the performance of the business, right? Like, so there is
yeah,
something that happens where if the business is underperforming or just not performing well for 6 months in a row, the emotional state of that business and the execs within it, and now having to have a conversation with differing point of views, but without all the dopamine hits that, allow us to be collaborative and hear the other person out. I think that really plays into it. So
this is an
performance
area where
changes
I
it.
want to get better myself. And I think Brian Halligan had a really good post on this where he talked about, that early exec team and up leveling those execs. I think that that's an area where I can see for the future, for the next like couple of years, as we think about exec hires and and changes to our exec team where we get hired. Now, I have gotten lucky. That's not to say I haven't had, like, Ryan Milligan is one of the best execs I've ever worked with, like truly is, and in any stage scale. And I can tell that he's going to be able to scale from us, from 10 million to 50 million, no problem. Like I can actually see, and I say that. And so I'm going to be careful about that because things change and
So
we're
he's going
always
to use this
evaluating.
clipping later and be like,
Yeah,
well,
I know
dude,
he's
you
going to use
said
it against me
this.
because he listens to Top. I know this, but
There you go, Ryan. You're
yeah,
welcome.
he had all the actually I'm not going to give Ryan the shout out, but just to talk about Ryan for a quick second, he took all of the closed won data that we talked about and like had bullet points that he like was like, hey, can you tell Sam these 5 things? And here's where I disagree with Sam on closed won data, just for the record, Sam. But yeah,
I saw that text. He missed the bigger reason why it jumped.
Yeah,
I re-listened to the episode. It was your transactional guy is creating opportunities right when he's about to win them.
and you also blamed marketing and the VP of
All of
marketing
this
for
is a
pipeline
marketing
softness.
problem.
No, but that's
which
the
was-
answer. I bet that's the answer.
So my point,
You're selling more transactional deals than that guy create or gal, whatever their gender is. They create opportunities right at the end. I bet
my
they're like,
point
oh, I got to
being,
catch up. I'm going to win this one.
my point being is exec hiring is something I'm continuing to hone in on a craft. I think I did a very good job of hiring individual sellers, sales managers, directors, and I know how to hire a sales leader. I know what sales looks like. The rest of the organization, I'm still learning and growing.
Hey, CMOs and marketing VPs, that's Chief Marketing Officers, join Pavilion in New York City, the Big Apple, for the CMO Summit on April 18th. The CMO Summit. At CMO Summit, you'll connect with other amazing B2B marketing executives and learn from folks like Udi Ledergor from Gong, Latny Conant of Sixth Sense, Andrea Kale of Help Scout on topics like mastering the customer lifecycle, AI and marketing, and building an iconic brand. Register now at joinpavilion.com/CMO Summit and use the code Topline for an exclusive 15% discount on your ticket. That's joinpavilion.com/CMO Summit and the code Topline for an exclusive 15% discount on your ticket. I will be there and I look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be fantastic.
Okay. So let's jump into the Pavilion Pulse report. Pavilion released their January 2024 Pulse report, and the data was quite interesting. In 2023, only 39% of executives hit or exceeded their targets. In January of 2024, it was 66%. Month over month, revenue attainment is moving up and to the right from July onwards, with a 15% increase in attainment between July 2023 and January 2024. 70% of execs right now are hiring for roles, but layoffs are also expected, especially in April. Funny enough, with 30% of execs expecting to do layoffs in April. Not sure why everybody is so specific about April, but it is what it is. Revenue attainment seems to be moving in the right direction, which is a combination of lower targets and improving market and better execution. It's hard to know how much each of these variables is influencing this, but is the fact that many still expect to do layoffs this year, while 70% are still actively hiring, a sign that efficiency is now not just a thing that we worry about when the economy is bad, but is getting integrated into our standard operating procedures moving forward, that almost every year we're going to look at our organizations and say, when you grow, there is bloat, even when you don't want it. And we have to fix that. We have to get rid of underperformers. We have to just be extremely cutthroat about making sure that these machines are run the right way. Sam, what do you think about that? Is that what's happening here?
Partially. I mean, I think one of the things that's happening is that people are setting lower, more attainable targets, and they were probably setting much higher targets last year that maybe were a little bit less realistic. I think, but I also think, I'll tell you personally, we're not planning any more layoffs, at Pavilion. But there's no but about headcount. It's just, is efficiency part of my ongoing thinking on a go forward basis as a CEO? The answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
And we're, cash flow positive and profitable in both January and February, and we'll be also profitable and cash flow positive in March and April, which is awesome. And yet I am still saying, where can we cut costs? How do we lower our Zoom bill? Where can we consolidate tech vendors? Why are we spending so much on this consultant? Because I want to be more profitable. And I don't, and exactly to your point, Asid, it's not I'm going left or I'm going right. I'm either growing at any cost and don't care about efficiency, or I'm so concerned about efficiency that I've stalled out growth. It's how do I grow but continue to maintain discipline around cost and spending? How do I continue to drive improvement? How do I make sure that, and I'm trying to, keep it front and center, trying to continue, trying to say, great, we generated X amount of cash in February. How can we generate more cash in February? What do we need to do to be even more profitable? That's where without necessarily sacrificing growth. So long answer to your question is, yeah, I think people are saying efficiency is not going anywhere. I want to bake it into my operating system, even as I pursue healthier growth.
Isn't that liberating though? Isn't that a freeing thing to feel, like day in and day out?
Yeah, I mean, it's freeing in some way, and it's also the freedom is the pressure. The thing that drives the efficiency is how do I keep making sure that every operating executive in the company is feeling the pressure that when somebody says, I want to hire somebody, I say, did we look in Argentina first? Let's make sure we look offshore before we hire that person. Well, no, I really need this person in the US. Do you? Why do you?
I like that.
It's stuff like that. And it's so that doesn't feel, maybe it feels a little, I'm excited for improved efficiency. I want the business that I'm building to keep getting better and better and better while it serves people better and better and better, and while it continues to be a great place to work, I hope. But it feels good in one way, but it also, I recognize that it's going to create pressure for others.
I have a theory on the layoffs today because I've seen this, Asid, and there are 3 companies that I've talked to that are doing layoffs are enterprise, selling enterprise.
Interesting.
And so my 2 theories on this is, one, their 12-month sales cycle has finally come to like the end of it. And so they're seeing like that tail end of like, okay, clearly now we know that there's an issue with it, like 12 months ago might not have. And 2, the GRR is finally getting hit because they close 2 to 3 year deals potentially. And I would guess in a software cycle that enterprise is starting to see GRR challenges. And I'm not entirely confident that the pipeline as softness hasn't picked back up, where I think down market in transactional and mid market
Ways.
is because they made the cuts last year. That's my I would curious if, Austin, you have any data on that and the teams that you're seeing hiring versus not hiring.
The thing that I've noticed the most, even with us, is that the bar for quality is much higher. And so there's 2 types of cuts that are happening. One is just along the way. Like, I'll give you an example from STA. We had a person who turned up late to a client meeting by like 2 minutes. We're like, guys, this is just this is not at all acceptable.
Yeah.
And then they came late to a meeting again, 2 minutes, client meeting. That person was let go, right? Like, that person was immediately let go. And in previous years, we might have
let go? They were let go because they were at a meeting 2 minutes late?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
This is
twice
AJ
in a row.
Bruno.
How
This
can
is
you turn
AJ
up to
Bruno,
a client
VP of
meeting
Sales
late?
at
Well, this
Trendkite.
is.
One second.
First off, AJ Bruno, VP of Sales, would not let anyone ever be late. They would have been like,
it wouldn't even happen.
their tails off.
The failure of
That wouldn't have
leadership that they
happened.
were late.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. I'm like, I feel like that had to be something else underlying. But anyway, go on.
No, it was this was the core issue with the person. The person was within the first couple of months with being with us. But how can you have a client sitting on a Zoom meeting and we're not getting into the agenda because a person from our team isn't on it? It's just impossible. Like, I think you have to have a really high bar for what an elegant client experience looks like. And an elegant client experience looks like, first and foremost, you're on time for the meeting. And being on time for a client meeting is probably you're on that Zoom 3 minutes before it starts. So you're actually 5 minutes late. not 2 minutes late. And so I think what I mean by sharing that example is in previous years, we might have had way more conversations about this situation with the person before making a move on it. Whereas now we moved very quickly. We're like, this is not going to go in any good direction. Let's start it now. So I think there's a lot of like spot checking along the way, where if you see something, your tolerance for mistakes is a lot lower and you are making decisions on the fly. And then we're having conversations where companies are going back to that Jack Welch type of thought process, where once a year, just let's look at the overall organization. Let's see, especially in go to market, who are the bottom 5-10%? Can we improve them? Like, is there a way to improve them? And if we can't improve them, then let's move on from them. Let's not let these people stay around in the organization longer than they should be. So there's a lot of that that's happening. The second one is probably something that plays out as a once in a year type of thing. And you're right that if there are like fiscal year considerations or sales cycle considerations, it might be coming into like April for those companies. Okay. Let's dig into, while we're talking about talent, this actually connects. So Ebsta and Pavilion released a benchmarks report, which was quite interesting. They looked at 4.2 million opportunities, 54 billion in revenue across 530 companies, and 1 million hours of conversation. Sam, how does Ebsta get this data? What does Ebsta do?
Ebsta is a revenue intelligence, revenue operations system that hooks up to your CRM and hooks up to your calendaring system and your email server. And so it gets this information by analyzing anonymous client data across the thousands and thousands of clients that they work with and across their CRM and pipeline.
So they're like Clarion, Gong, and like these type of companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here's some insights. They found that win rates were down by 18% in 2023, sales cycles were up by 16%, and deal values were down by 21% as companies lost pricing power. From a channels perspective, organic inbound was the best performing source of business for companies with under 500 employees, and outbound was the best performing channel for companies with with less than 500 employees. But organic inbound was for more than 500 employees. And then only 8% of companies had partnership channel, but partnership-driven leads had 3.8x the velocity of other channels. And in the Pavilion Pulse survey, 55% of respondents said that they're going to focus slightly more or much more on partnerships this year. Something I really liked about this report is that it showed what great salespeople do differently to everyone else. So here's the thing I want to click in on, since we're talking about people. 17% of reps generated 81% of the revenue, and 69% of reps missed quota. So we can actually click into the habits of the 17%, the actions that these 17% that drove 81% of the revenue, what are they doing different? So here are a few startling things. Top performers are 218% more likely to self-source pipeline. They are 366% more likely to disqualify an opportunity. They're 843% more likely to overcome objections. These are nuanced differences. These are significant differences. 412% more likely to have a net step defined. 588% more likely to follow a sales methodology. It seems like the difference between the great reps out there, the ones that drive the majority of revenue, and everyone else is not nuanced, it's significant. So then, shouldn't that make qualifying and hiring these reps a much easier problem to solve, Sam, than it seems to be?
I was coming out on around the same place that your question is asking, which is one out of many years ago, there was this company called Objective Management Group run by Dave Curlin and Chris Mott, and they had a test. And this test was actually used by Mark Roberge when he was building HubSpot. And it tested for sales DNA. And there's 4 qualities to a great seller. That is outlook, desire, commitment, and responsibility, according to this methodology. And I brought it into Axial when I was head of sales. And it was a frustrating thing to do because, like any consultant, you run the test and you run the assessment of all of your sellers. And it turns out that none of them should actually be in sales, or a very small percentage of them should actually be in sales. And Dave and Chris and the team at OMG would say, on average, about 20% of your people are qualified to actually be in sales, and 80% are probably in the wrong career. And
seems that's true.
That's where I'm coming out on it, which is there's a lot of people Not everybody. There's definitely a percentage of mid-level people, meaning mid ability, that can be coached up. We talk about that. But I guess where I come out on it is, yeah, there's a lot of people in sales that shouldn't be in sales. There's a lot of people that are afraid to ask difficult questions. There's a lot of people that have high need for approval. There's a lot of people that have self-limiting beliefs around what a lot of money is and can't talk confidently about money. There's a lot of people that get very defensive and emotional when they're addressed with objections and can't be clinical about it, or disassociate their personal emotion from the conversation at hand. There's a lot of people that aren't particularly curious and don't really care about their prospects.
One of the stats was top performers are 519% more likely to have the right high quality relationships, meaning that tons of reps are spending day and night all throughout the year talking to people in organizations that are not the economic buyer, not the right person to talk to. AJ, like when you see data like this, right? Because your numbers are different. Like you've been an elite sales leader that has built high performing teams. Doesn't mean 10 out of 10 people that you hire are fantastic, but your numbers are quite different to this. What do you think is playing out over here? Do you think that we just have too many technology companies that need too many salespeople compared to the actual amount of good salespeople out there? That the challenge of scaling tech as an ecosystem is actually the deficiency of quality people?
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten complacent for sure. Like we've definitely gotten complacent in terms of the quality control of how we're managing our team. But I also would go back to the numbers that you cited from Ebsta. I don't remember all the numbers, but you said like 18% sales cycle elongation, 16% ACVs going down. And then there was another number that you cited that was like another miss. And when you add all three of those up together, you get a very large miss. Like you get a very large, there's a massive delta, right?
100%.
And so like if you're in a sales role and you have all of those metrics feeling like they're working against you, whether you're a top seller or not, whatever the case may be, you're definitely going to have morale issues across the floor. And I think that that's what a lot of this plays out to is like, is it a talent issue? Is it a coaching issue? Is it a hiring issue? Is it like, there's just a lot of those issues. And ultimately, I think it just amounts to, what Sam said. I mean, there's only a handful of folks that are actually set to be in the roles. And we didn't do the interview process. Asid, in a text a few weeks ago, you said, oh, we've been terrible at interviewing. We've gotten just trash at interviewing. And I think that that's like a good wake up call for us as we start to hire folks again and think through those a little bit. But does that solve the problem individually? No, I think it's just a part of the problem. And I feel that our discipline in sales has definitely taken a hit over the last couple of years, but it will rebound, and it already started to have. I mean, we saw it in the Pavilion data, 39%
Okay, let's make a
last year.
prediction. Let's do an AJ prediction then.
Okay.
So in 2023, let me look at this data. 17% of reps generated 81% of the revenue in 2023. What do you think these two numbers are going to be?
50%. 50% will
you
generate.
think 50% of reps will generate 81% of the revenue?
Yeah, I think that doubles.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
I think it doubles.
That's more than double though, like 17 to 50.
It's like the quota path close rate. It's going to double.
You're gonna futz with the numbers.
Sam, what do you think happens to this in 2024? How much does this come up by, if anything?
It's definitely not going to double. 100%. I will take the under.
Okay, we'll track this. And now that we have a bet on that note, let's do shout outs or wins of the week. Sam or AJ, whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. The winner of the week is Topline listeners, because I am resolved that by the time you hear this, there will be a publicly available Slack channel for everybody to congregate in. We're going to be posting it. I'm tired of dicking around. We're just going to create the channel. Anybody that wants to can join. We'll post the link publicly. It'll be pavilion_topline. And if you're a listener and you want to, and you don't have to be a Pavilion member, so it'll be free to anybody that wants to participate at any level. You're just excited about Topline. You want to ask us questions. You want to drop in questions for Topline Hotline. By the time that you hear this, which is Monday, March 11th, this will be live.
We should
We
take
don't
our
have-
texts and like make them public somehow on Slack channels.
I
That
was
would be
looking at
cool.
our docket document. There's like 60 pages of like docket notes in there now that we're like almost 50 episodes
We
in.
should
This
open source the docket too.
We'll
Like, we
open
should make
source the
this entire
docket.
collaborative community, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be so cool.
You can
and
come in and comment on the docket, and you
oh
can
my
help us
God.
craft the questions for it.
Yeah.
Like, I
We're
think a really
opening
cool part of
Pandora's
this.
box right now, guys. We are definitely opening Pandora's box, but it sounds fantastic.
This is going to be
We'll
fun.
figure it out.
We'll
figure
tell
it
you
out.
when we have a guest coming up. You can help us come up with questions for that. It'll be so much fun. I love that, Sam. This is cool.
Cool.
AJ.
I feel like I'm making the rounds on my executive team. Last week it was Graham. I've given Milligan a shout out before. I'm going to give my co-founder Cole Evitz, who's running CX, a shout out. We were just talking about co-founders and CEOs just a second ago, earlier in the conversation. Cole and I have been partners in crime for quite some time, and we're going to see Dune together tonight. So, co-founder Cole, I'm going to give you a shout out. Good to hang out tonight.
Shout out to Cole. Did you enjoy the first one?
Yeah, I loved it. Did you not?
It was good. It was a good movie.
No, it's more
It's
than
a
good.
good-
Sorry, incorrect take.
It wasn't
You're
like
bad.
Wait,
What?
but I'm excited about the
Damn.
second one. I think I'll do a win of the week. I've started sprinting again. This is so much about me. I'm such a narcissist, but like, let's go. I
Are
started
you washing
sprinting
your
again.
hands when you're sprinting? Are you washing your hands?
A little bit right after, but I haven't been able to do it for a while, and it does hurt right now. Like, my legs are hurting, but I got to sprint after a long time, and I realized there are very few things in the world that can clear your mind the way that sprinting can. So that was a win of the week for myself as a human being.
Wonderful. Well, folks, I'm about to go downstairs in the Marriott Marquis on Mission Street in San Francisco to give my talk at Charge BB Leave. And other than that, I hope you're having a great week. This Thursday, there will not be a Topline Hotline. We're going to release an episode from the 30 Minutes to President's Club podcast that features me and Mark Cosoglow talking about stuff that's happening in sales. We'll be back next Monday for your regularly scheduled programming, and we'll probably have a guest of some sort if Asad and AJ are doing their jobs, which they always do.
And a Slack channel. And a Slack
And
channel.
a Slack channel.
Slack channel.
And an open source docket.
Oh my
And a
God.
small subscription. Oh, really only $2,000 a month. And anyway, we'll figure it out. Lots of good
Okay.
stuff happening. Thanks
Bye,
for listening,
everyone.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
This episode was brought to you by the book Ecosystem-Led Growth, a new book by Crossbeam CEO Bob Moore. Pre-order your copy at elgbook.com. That's elgbook.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Topline. To learn more about the trends, news, and developments impacting the world of B2B SaaS, head to joinpavilion.com, where more than 10,000 of the world's top go-to market leaders go to achieve and unlock their full professional potential.